Hello students, and welcome back to the video series of Business Analytics for Marketing. This video will cover the topic of customer value assessment using logistic regression. Now, as discussed in class, it is important for us to understand why our customers value our product, or what are those variables that results in a customer continuing with a specific product. So in case you have your own product line and you have customer data, you will be able to use this analysis to understand which customers are likely or unlikely to continue with you or churn. Uh, the top of mind question for this topic is, what is the lifetime value of a customer? And the focus for this video will be on logistic regression, which we will be performing on a data set where we have customer data on usage of different internet service providers, whether they take different service, technical support, etc., etc. Now, talking from a customer value perspective, it is basically on the basis of historical data on customer interactions, transactions, their behavior, purchase history, frequency of interactions, last purchases, demographics, etc. So, from an exam standpoint, you can expect these variables to be shared with you for your data sets. Now, next part, we will directly move on to the data set that was mentioned. So we have a data set on existing customers and their historical interactions, or the data we have about them. We have customer ID, gender, senior citizen, whether they have a partner or not. This basically talks about if they have dependents or not, tenure with which they have been with this particular product, so on and so forth. And finally, if we look at the last column, it says whether that specific customer continued or they moved off from the products, which means churn or continued to be a trusted customer. So this video will show you how to perform logistic regression using SPSS. So we'll click on Analyze, click on Regression. We are going to do binary logistic regression in this case. So just follow the workflow that we are doing as part of this video. Click on binary logistics, and as you can see, you can pick a dependent variable. In this case, the dependent variable on the independent variable is churn. As we can see that depending on which factors finally does a customer decide whether they'll stay or not. So we have churn values for each of the customers, which is the dependent variable that we have taken here. And similarly here we have the block of independent variables. You can take as per your assumptions, but here we have taken a few which according to our initial thought process makes sense. Uh, you can also decide which are the categorical variables among the covariates that we have. In this case, gender, partner, independence, whereas we also have senior citizen, tenure that they are with us, and the monthly charges also mentioned as part of this list. Now, what we would like to see is whether a customer was predicted correctly and what was the probability for that. So we have taken probabilities as check, group membership as check, and logit residual as check. So when you are doing this analysis, these values will not be checked. Please do ensure that you have checked these options while you have selected save, because this will allow you to have the final data set, which basically says if a specific customer was rightly predicted by your logic model or not. So we'll continue, and we click on OK. So this was the step for doing logistic regression on the data set. The first table basically gives us an understanding about the overall data set that we had. So we had 7,043 records apparently from the data set, whereas there were no missing values. So in case you had missing values, you would have been able to take a call on whether to remove them and if they are impacting your logistic regression that you're performing. Similarly, and because you have done regression in previous subjects, I'm not going to focus much on the data, but just scrolling down a bit, uh, you get basically your chi-square data, and also you understand the classification table in this case, so on and so forth. So you have a lot of insights that you can garner from this. I'll directly move on to the model summary. This is also important, where you get the Cox and Snell R square value and Nagelkerk R square values as well, which also is important. But the most important thing is whether the matrix or the classification table has predicted and how well it has predicted. For example, uh, from the initial setup, when there was a churn, uh, the predicted value for uh, uh, not churn was 4704. That was correctly predicted, but at the same time 470 values which were churned uh, were supposed to be which were supposed to be not churned were predicted as churn. So there is a percentage of 90.9 accuracy for this model when it comes to prediction of whether it was churn or not. Similarly, if the prediction was yes, it was a churn, but 1011 cases were wrongly predicted, whereas 858 of them were correctly predicted. So the overall model has accuracy of 79%. Now, from a variable standpoint, this also helps us from the significance part, which of these variables significantly impact the creation of the model. And we see that for gender it is pretty high and partner it is pretty high, which means these two do not contribute well in terms of creating the logit model. But if you consider senior citizen, dependence, tenure, monthly charges, and constant, so these are the variables which basically have a very high impact on the logistic model that we have performed. So this is all about how you are going to perform logistic regression. If you have any doubts, please feel free to get back, and we will get back with the next video on SERVQuery analysis, which is part of your evaluation. So thank you, and looking forward to have you for the next video series. Thank you.